Wonder Man, the first Marvel Cinematic Universe thing of 2026. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it great? We'll talk about it. Now, this is a spoiler-free video. I'm going to make another video that's going to be spoiler-full, and I'm going to go over a lot of the specific details and like choices that I think were really interesting. This video is just my initial thoughts. This is for people who want to know if they should watch the show or just who want to know what I thought about it. But again, I'm not going to spoil anything that happens in the show. By the way, my cat Mortimer is on my lap. He has to be here because he loves Wonder Man, because Wonder Man hung out with Tigra, who is a cat person. She's like Marvel's cat lady. And yes, the character Greer was referenced very, very briefly in Hawkeye. But besides that, and her appearance in the Chippendale movie, we have not gotten a tiger person yet, so there's always new stuff for Marvel to do. Anyway, okay, so Wonder Man is a series. It is from Marvel. It is part of the Marvel Spotlight banner, which I feel like we have so many banners we're putting these things under now. But I think the way that it's supposed to work is Marvel Spotlight is supposed to be something that you can watch, but don't necessarily need to. As opposed to something like Visions, probably, or Daredevil, where if you want to keep current with the MCU, you should probably check out this thing. Wonder Man, and then also Echo, I believe was this. It seems like Marvel wants to tell people, like, you don't need to watch everything. This is something you don't need to watch. That doesn't mean it's bad. I don't know why they chose to put this in the Spotlight banner. I also don't know why they chose to release all 8 episodes today on January 27th when I watched it, but it is a choice they made. Again, this is what they did with Echo, but it is also what they did with Marvel Zombies. And I have my problems with Echo, but I thought the Marvel Zombies show was pretty good. So it doesn't seem like the kind of thing where like, oh, this is a bad show, you know, we dump it onto streaming. I really don't know why they did this way. Because is it more essential to the MCU than the Daredevil show? Like, maybe. We don't know where all these characters are going to be in the future and how everything's going to tie together, but like, I don't know, like one of the characters from the show is a character from 2 of the big movies. So I don't know. I'm curious as to why they did it this way. I would love to get like an honest answer for Marvel. I'm sure they have like a stock answer that they put out, but part of me thinks it could maybe have something to do with the pacing of the show. Like they want to put out a lot of episodes quickly, especially because maybe the first few episodes are a little slow. I'm not saying they are, but like that could make sense. And it's like, well, if we only put out 1 episode, people say it's bad, but if we put out like 2 or 3, people will get really into it. I don't know. I really don't understand it. It was created by Destin Daniel Cretton, who made Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings and is also making Spider-Man Brave New World. It seems like the head writer is Andrew Guest. And then this show stars, I would say, 4 main characters. Simon Williams, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. Trevor Slattery, who was previously the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. And then just Trevor in Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, played here again by Ben Kingsley. Then you've got a character named Devon Kovac, who is played by Zlatko Buric, who you'd probably recognize from Triangle of Sadness or Superman. He plays the director of the Wonder Man movie. And it really focuses on those first 2, Simon and Trevor. There's like one other character that shows up more than a couple times and is pretty involved in the plot, and that is Agent Cleary from Damage Control, and he is played here again by Arian Moayed. He appeared previously in Ms. Marvel and Spider-Man No Way Home. And in case you forgot, because we haven't seen them consistently, Damage Control is some sort of government organization that cleans up after superheroes, recovers superhero trash, and also apparently monitors superheroes. This is something that has been developing over those other 2 movies, and we're getting a lot more of it here. And then other important characters, you've got X Mayo playing Janelle Jackson, Simon's agent, and then Shola Adewezi plays Simon's mom, who happens to be named Martha, which is fun. All right. So those are the characters. What's the plot of the show? Very basically, Simon is a struggling actor. He meets up with Trevor Slattery, who is also a struggling actor, but a struggling actor with way more credits. And as we saw in those other movies, yes, he was in jail at the end of Iron Man 3, but then the Mandarin stole him, and now he's kind of free, although his legal status is questionable because he was stolen from jail, and nobody knows what happened in Talo. Like, I don't know who you would tell. Like, no, it's okay. I helped kill the Dweller in Darkness, even though I didn't really help. Like, I helped get the people that did there, so is that enough for me to not be in jail anymore for this weird crime that I didn't know I did? It's complicated, and they kind of get into it here, which I enjoyed. So Simon and Trevor meet, become friends, as they are auditioning for a remake of an older movie that Simon really liked called Wonder Man, which was this 80s cheesy sci-fi like Star Wars or Star Trek or Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon feels like the main inspiration for it, and Simon really wants this part, and Trevor has another part that he wants in the same movie, but they're not going out for the same role. But most of this series, and I was kind of surprised by this, is Simon and Trevor just trying to get this job. Now, the other conceit of the show that I think is important to mention is that Simon Williams has superpowers. They're not known to very many people, however, he's on Damage Control's radar, but because of an incident, which we hear about and get more information about as the show goes on, superpowered people are not allowed to act or work in movies because of how much of a liability they can be, which is especially true of Simon because his powers are kind of uncontrollable, very strong, and seem to be driven by like emotion, much like acting. So, you know, we're kind of seeing where this is going. I would say it's mostly a comedy. It honestly feels very in the same vein as The Studio, which is about a kind of similar thing, although they come at this idea of what's funny about being in Hollywood from very different angles. Like I said, most of the perspective we get in this show is from struggling actors just trying to get one really important job. And yeah, this is interesting because in the comics, Simon has powers, but he becomes an actor because he has superpowers and because that makes him valuable, because he can like do his own stunts and not die. So this is a take on this. It's like, what if he wanted to be an actor but couldn't because of superpowers? Honestly, I think it's pretty clever. And yeah, like Simon Williams is one of the more high profile Marvel characters that is not connected to the X-Men or Fantastic Four or any of the things they didn't used to own, who has not shown up in these yet. So I did expect eventually they would do a Wonder Man thing. It seems like the show had been finished for a while and they were just kind of sitting on it. It has to do, I think, with the strikes, but also Marvel wanting to space out projects, especially like last year and the year before. But that's it. It's 8 episodes. This is the only season of it that exists. If there's going to be another one, we haven't heard about it, at least at the time of this recording. And the only other important thing is Simon Williams is not a character who has been confirmed for any of the other Avengers movies or anything like that. So this really is kind of self-contained. Like I said, you have 2 characters here, Trevor Slattery and Agent Cleary, who have been in other Marvel things, and it does really help to have seen those and know who those people are. They do a good job, like they always do, of explaining who they are to people that have not watched those things, especially for like someone who, you know, you could probably assume most people have seen the Spider-Man movie, but maybe not everybody saw Miss Marvel, or maybe they did see Miss Marvel, but they kind of fell off and they didn't see the end where he kind of makes more of an appearance. All right, so that's everything you need to know about this show. Big picture. Did I enjoy all 8 episodes? Like, did I enjoy the show as a whole? Absolutely. I think this was really good. And I think most of that, if not all of that, comes from, which is funny because it's a show about actors, the performances. I think the writing is solid too. Like, I can see a world where Simon is not cast as well, and he's not played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. And like, you can't cast Trevor differently, but like, let's say Ben Kingsley didn't want to come back, so you get just somebody else to fill in for him. Like, this would be fine, but this project really works because the characters really work, which I think is true of most of the Marvel projects that really work. And a lot of them work in spite of the fact that like some of the story things are kind of messy, right? Miss Marvel has a weird plot that goes in a lot of different ways, but Kamala Khan is a character people like, fun, so we're excited to see more of her. I think Simon Williams is definitely one of those. Is this the best Marvel show? I have seen people saying that. A lot of it probably comes from it getting very good Rotten Tomatoes scores, and it comes from just generally getting very good reviews. If you compare this to every series Marvel has produced since like WandaVision being the first one, I think it's certainly up there. I think just for me, and I know everybody's different on this, Agatha All Along is still probably my favorite, then WandaVision, then Loki season 1. Like, those are my big 3. Where does this sit among them? I would say this is tied, funny enough, with WandaVision for me. Funny because those characters are traditionally related in the comics. Wanda, Vision, and Wonder Man have an interesting like love triangle, which is a very interesting love triangle because one of the guys is a copy of the other guy. So I don't even know if that's a triangle. Like, there are a lot of things I really liked about this show, and there are things I think this show does potentially better than Agatha, Loki, and WandaVision. That's not to say that this show does not have issues. I would say this show has one enormous issue, which we will talk about, although we won't get into too much detail, because again, no spoilers. But like, I think this show does pretty much everything it is trying to do right, and overall it just feels like it works. Like, it feels like it achieves all of the goals it is setting out. Whereas some of these Marvel shows will write checks they can't cash. I think Wonder Man can totally cash this check. And again, it's characters, which is writing, and performances. I think Yahya Abdul-Mateen II plays this character in a very interesting way. He is both very sympathetic, but also like very flawed. And I liked, and like some people talk about this a lot, like how some of the Marvel things don't have actual flawed characters. Simon has flaws. Trevor is like practically all flaws, but he feels most of the time like a cartoon character. Simon feels like a guy, like just a person you could see in the world. Feels like it's a very natural performance. I also think they give him a lot to do. And it's funny watching a good actor act like a good actor acts. I love watching good actors act badly. That's always fun. But then watching him like channel good acting, and you're like, wow, that's good acting. And it's like, yeah, I know he's a good actor. It's a weird thing to see. But like, as is true of Simon, yeah, he's got it. Like, he's just a star. He's got a lot of charisma. I've liked him since, I don't know, Black Manta, and I really liked him in Watchmen. I'm happy he's getting a lead role here, and I think he totally carries the performance. And you know what? I'm surprised at how much I like Trevor Slattery. I think this character is fun. I always thought he was kind of fun, but I also, you know, you could see this character and go like, he he might be annoying in like 5 movies. But I think he's got the right amount of like silliness, but also like sincerity. He feels kind of like a real person, like enough of a real person. Also, he's clearly a guy who's kind of like putting on a persona, so there's a little bit of that. But like Ben Kingsley's a very good actor. He's able to find those little moments in Trevor where you're like, oh, this is how he actually really feels about this. This is interesting, like watching him react to something that's happening. Von Kovac, very funny. I wish there was a little bit more of him in the show. And then Agent Cleary, interesting. I am curious as to where damage control is going in the future, because I kind of thought I knew, but now I'm like, I really don't think I know. I think they have options, and I think that's kind of cool. The visuals for this show, it's shot very well. I think it looks nice. I think the shots do like cool things when it comes to just like composition, framing. They do a really good job of photographing Los Angeles. It looks both beautiful and also like cruddy, like it is. It feels like the real Los Angeles. I think it's interesting because this is one of those things where the people writing it have worked on film sets and have probably gone to auditions and all of this stuff, so they know what these processes are like. It does feel pretty authentic. I think most of the filmmaking stuff is pretty chaotic, which it's supposed to be, while this show clearly likes acting and thinks acting is an interesting profession. How could it not, right? It's a show filled with actors, so I'd be surprised if it comes to the conclusion like, you know what, actors are all bad, which like certain characters in the show do kind of think like acting's stupid. And it's got a lot of sappiness for acting and like why it's important. But on the other hand, like this doesn't feel like a show designed to make acting look fun or make Hollywood look extra glamorous. I think it really gets at like some of the desperation involved with Hollywood and just some of the weirdness. I will say, like, Simon has superpowers. I think they look pretty cool. I think it's not something where he's doing a lot of superpower stuff, because this is a show about someone who is actively trying to hide his superpowers. But when they do manifest, I think they look great. Get a little bit into his power signature. In the comics, it's usually a purple, so you see some of that here. I think it looks cool. And I really like the design of like the old Wonder Man show. I love when a movie or a show gets to make a kind of bad movie within the show, and it's always fun to watch those. But not that the Wonder Man movie in this universe is bad, just like it's from the 80s and it's kind of hokey. And then like the present day Wonder Man stuff, I think is cool. I would say one of the things that I wish there was a little bit more of, and I think this is kind of strange that this is that, but I wish there was more of like making a superhero movie is crazy, because so much of this show is dedicated to getting a job is crazy, and like taping an interview or going to an audition or anything like that, which I think those are interesting, but like it feels like there's a whole lot of other stuff that Marvel could do in a Wonder Man show that is specifically making fun of Marvel, and that would be fun. I don't think they shied away from that because they were like, we don't want to make ourselves look kind of dumb. I guess this show just didn't want to do that, and that's fine. But that would have been fun. So like I did leave it going like, I wish there was a little more of that. As far as like big highlights for me, things that I was not expecting, and again, I'm not going to spoil it. Episode 4 is great. Without telling you anything about it, it should be its own thing. And by what I mean is like a little genre of Marvel stuff. Maybe even separate from Wonder Man and the whole story. But like I would watch like 10 different versions of these if I was able to. And I'm getting people's hopes up, but I do think that has to be the standout episode for everybody. And besides the fact that like it's well shot and it's cool and like it's a good story, and it's like, oh my god, this could be its own show. That would be so fun. I'll get into more of that in my spoiler video. I would say like my other highlight, something I wasn't expecting, was how much this is set in regular Hollywood, how many actors get name-checked and how many projects get name-checked. Like a show like this could just make up a lot of names, but instead it's all people that you recognize. There are even some cameos, and this is maybe my favorite kind of cameo in any sort of media. Entourage was great for this, Extras was great for this, is an actor playing a kind of bizarre caricature version of themselves. I think the ones that show up here, and it's not a ton, but are so funny. And like I like the way it's connected to other stuff. Like I said, like it's not super connected, but like knowing Trevor's journey and seeing it continue here is very fun and rewarding. Seeing what happens with damage control over all these movies and shows is interesting. Knowing the show exists in a world where there are all these other superheroes flying around and stuff, like that makes this special in a way that like I don't think you could get away with if this was just a one-off thing that wasn't connected to the Marvel universe. But like just overall, like my positive thoughts, I am very excited for this character. I think people are going to really like this show. I wish they gave it a weekly release. I will not understand why. And like, I feel very good about Spider-Man. I was worried about Spider-Man Not because I didn't think Destin Daniel Cretton was good. I liked Shang-Chi a lot, but it was like, I want to see like 2 things he's worked on before I'm like, oh, this guy's the best. And now I'm like, oh, this guy's the best. Like the fact that he made Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings, and then this. Any worries I had about Spider-Man based on like, oh, there's a lot of villains and the plot's kind of weird. I don't care anymore. I trust him. And like, I would not be surprised if he gets the keys to whatever he wants in the future, which maybe it's Spider-Man, and maybe that's part of this universe he wants to build out. But, and I think Marvel kind of gets this, if they get somebody who works for them that just totally works, like it clicks, like James Gunn in Guardians 1, they're just like, keep doing these. And yeah, maybe they'll fire you if there's tweets and stuff, but they'll bring you back, and they seem to give you a lot of leeway and freedom. I hope that's where Destin Daniel Cretton is right now, because I think this was very good. I have one issue with the show that I don't think is a spoiler, and it is the pacing. The pacing of the show is very strange. I think it starts pretty strong, and it builds a very nice kind of reasonable progression of like, this is what this episode is, this is what this episode is, and then as we're getting close to the end, it feels like we skip a couple of episodes. And like, I understand story-wise why we did that, because that is what the show wants to be about. It does not want to be about certain things. It wants to be about this relationship between these 2 characters. I think that's great. However, like, I don't know, it just felt weird to me. I haven't seen any of the critics talking about this, because I haven't read very much about this, and like I haven't seen too many reviews. I wouldn't be surprised if people come out of it and this is their main like problem with the show, is just the pacing. But like, on the other hand, it is paced in a way that is weird, and it still kind of works. And like, some of the shows that are paced well, like WandaVision, I would say is paced very well, but the stuff at the end isn't as compelling as the stuff in the beginning. I think here, the stuff in the end is as compelling as the stuff in the beginning, but it's just the journey we're on feels strange. Like I said, I'm curious to see if people agree with me about that. Not that like they have to. And again, I'm saying this show really works, so this is clearly not like a deal breaker for me. But coming out of it, it's the one thing that I'm like, what was going on with that? But yeah, just like my initial thoughts are like, this show was really good. It was way better than I expected, and it was way better than I would expect from a Marvel show that was getting launched all in January. However, when you like look at what the show is, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, Ben Kingsley, Destin Daniel Cretton, Andrew Guest, like the character of Wonder Man, this idea of a superhero trying to hide his superheroiness in Hollywood. So I'm surprised that I was surprised because of how good this looks on paper. However, you never know. The production, Marvel machine strikes. Any number of things could make this not work, and pretty much none of them do. It just works. Is this the best thing of 2026 so far? Yes, it is the only thing of 2026 so far. Does this bode really well for 2026? Yes. I was kind of worried that we would go into 2026 and start with a show that Marvel wanted to get out of its system, and then move on to the big stuff like Daredevil, Spider-Man, that does seem really excited about. Looking at the show now, and then also looking at the Daredevil Born Again Season 2 trailer that came out today, I'm like, oh, maybe Marvel's got like 2 solid hits in a row, and that would be like great for them, because I do think they need to hit some home runs going into Doomsday, and I could totally see it, because Daredevil Season 2 looks very promising. Spider-Man, like I said, because of Wonder Man, I have even more faith in now. The Punisher special, how can that not be fun? And then the Vision show, I think has pretty much everything working for it, because I think Marvel wants people to go and do Doomsday going like, oh my god, Marvel's got it. Again, it seems like a lot of the success of Marvel things has to do with the narrative around Marvel things. So if the narrative is Marvel is not doing great, that thing is not as successful. I think partially that's why Thunderbolts didn't do super well, is because the narrative coming off of Thunderbolts was, hey, that Captain America movie was a mess. A watchable mess, but a mess. Like, I think a lot of Marvel projects, while not necessarily judged based on the performances of the last couple of things, a lot of their success or failure, at least financially, seems to have to do with that. And I can't think of a better start to the year than this. Because, all of these studios, they've got their flop eras. Marvel, Star Wars is all over the place. And like Disney has had flops, and that builds the narrative. And I think that's really interesting, especially for these interconnected universes. Speaking of Disney flops, I watched a video recently by Lindsay that I really liked called Let's Compare and Contrast Disney's Flop Eras. In the video, Lindsay talks about the different flop eras of Disney. Because sure, there were lots of movies that they made that were just hits, but also they made a lot of movies that were great and we love that bombed, and also they made some movies that people don't love that also didn't do well. But like, I find it interesting to look back at like a big studio like that, get that kind of perspective. Also, it's funny. It's a funny video. All of Lindsay's videos are funny. You can watch that video right now on this video sponsor, Nebula. You guys have heard me talk about Nebula before. It is a subscription streaming service that I helped to create. A bunch of us video essayists, and I don't like call myself a content creator, but like content creators got together and we were like, hey, these platforms we have to work with, they're great, but they have some problems. And the big one is we wanted to just make great videos, give them to you guys. We wanted to make a nice, clean, well-organized place where you can go to watch all of our videos. They all go up early, so every Nando V Movies video and Nando Cut video go up early. They're all ad-free. You can download them to your phone, which is a feature I don't hear nearly enough people talking about, but is incredibly useful. Like if you don't want to have to eat up all your data or deal with the Wi-Fi at the gym or something, download some videos, you'll have them with you. Also, this is a thing that wasn't a concern when we started Nebula, but has become a concern when talking about the other platforms is, I don't know about you, but when I jump onto other platforms, I am flooded with AI. It is everywhere, and it makes finding information, especially useful information, really, really difficult because you don't know if it is being made by a person, and if it's not being made by a person, A, you don't want to support it because AI is bad, but B, like if you're trying to learn something or get some information, AI just makes stuff up. So like I have gone to so many videos trying to learn things about comic book characters that I kind of know some stuff about, but don't know everything about. Like, oh, I want to get brought up to speed on like the full story of Cable or something like that. And just immediately you hear something and like, that's not true. Oh, this is AI. Okay. Yeah. Ignore that. The videos on Nebula are all made by real people, and that didn't used to have to be a selling point, but now I think it might be the best selling point. There's also all kinds of cool videos you can only find on Nebula. Like Lindsay makes videos almost exclusively for Nebula. One of her most recent videos was about Bluey adults, and the one after that was about dash cam footage, so it really covers a pretty wide spectrum of things. Then you've got short films like Patrick Williams' Dinner Plan, or series like Maggie Mae Fish's Amy's Dead End Dreamhouse. And you have what we haven't like fully announced, but will be coming out sometime next year, our show Subliminal. It's our first like dramatic series. I wrote an episode. I think it's pretty good. I've seen parts of it now because it's like coming together and been edited and all that, and like it looks great. I can't wait for you guys to see it. If you want to support us, give us more opportunities to do cool stuff like that, and you want to see our videos early, ad-free, download them and see other creators on Nebula, because all of your favorite creators and your next few favorite creators are on Nebula right now. Like there's something for everybody. And a yearly subscription to Nebula is $60 for a whole year. That is $5 a month. go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, or the link in the description, or you use the QR code, you can get a year of Nebula for just $30. That is $2.50 a month. It is an incredible deal. And if you want to check Nebula out on your own, sign up for a 3-day trial. I guarantee you will find something you like. Again, that is go.nebula.tv/thenandocut.